Good.
So before we get going today, I want to start off with doing a little informed consent and get your acknowledgement that you understand a few things. So the first thing I do want to talk about is that I'm a mandatory reporter, and that anything that we do talk about will be kept private, except for if you would disclose that you plan on or have abused children. I'm a mandatory reporter. I am required by law to report that. That goes as well for elder abuse. Anything else that you want disclosed from our sessions, you will have to sign a release of information that is specific to the types of information you want disclosed and who that information can be disclosed to. The fee agreement as well. Did you get a chance to read the fee agreement? You're comfortable with it? Okay. And then do you have any questions about any of the other paperwork that you signed?
Yeah.
I know it's extensive, and I know there's a lot of stuff. People sometimes don't get a chance to read it all. The important pieces, such as the client's rights statement and stuff, is all posted in the commons area in the lobby. You can feel free to read that when you get a chance to, or if you have any interest in reading it. So, you feel comfortable? You're ready to begin? Okay, so why don't we begin with what brings you here?
Well, I just have a lot of anxiety all the time, and I don't really know what to do with it, and so just thought, that's all I thought.
Okay, so what you're saying is that you're dealing with some anxiety that is making it difficult for you to do certain things during the day. Why don't you tell me about that?
Well, I often get set off into like panic attacks based on like, you know, events that are happening, and I have to like talk myself out of panic attacks, and it's very time consuming and tiring, and so, you know.
So can you give me some reference as to how often and when, and maybe some types of situations that would be panic invoking for you?
Generally life is panic invoking. I don't really know how to explain it other than, you know, I'll just be doing something, and then suddenly like I just get this huge wave of fear, like I'm wrong and nothing's gonna work out, and then I have like this panic, and then I have to talk myself out of the cliff, you know, off the cliff of reality, you know, like my life isn't that bad, but it's like this cycle that I can't really get out of. I just keep doing that, and it's like my brain has a mind of its own, and I can't really figure out how to stop it.
So if I hear you correctly, you're saying this is like a generalized anxiety disorder as opposed to any specific type of situation, or?
Right, yeah. I mean, it happens all the time. Some situations make it worse than others, you know. But,
you know what types of situations those might be?
well, like work, when I'm under stress, I get like really anxious, you know. But work won't set off like that fear reaction, but like if I'm like living my life and my kids are mad at me, suddenly like then I have the fear moment, like I'm raising them wrong, or like I'm doing something wrong.
Tell me a little bit about your work.
Well, I work as an administrator, but I do a whole bunch more, and there's a lot that I have to manage and know about and worry about.
What types, so in your job, you mentioned previously that this was often panic and causing for you. How long have you been at your job?
Less than 6 months.
Less than 6 months. Where did you work before that?
I used to run a building, like an apartment building. I used to run apartments.
Can you explain that to me?
Well, I just used to live on site, manage the maintenance people, and then I would, you know, take care of the books, order the parts, and then train new managers, and rent apartments, obviously, advertise apartments.
So have you found that your new job is more panic causing than your old job? Do you think it's generalized as to working in general? Do you think it's a type of work?
Well, I think the fact that I have to like engage with a whole bunch of people now, whereas before I just worked in an office by myself, that's kind of convincing, you know, because you have to now manage all the personalities, whereas before, if I didn't want to deal with people, I could just close the door and I didn't have to see anybody.
And now you don't have that liberty to
No,
just close the door.
no, I work like right in the main lobby,
Yeah.
so there's always somebody there.
So, is the panic paralyzing? Are you able to cope with your daily
Yeah.
duties of your job?
Yeah, I mean, I do everything, I get everything done, I don't really eat or sleep though,
Mhm.
which tends to be a problem.
I noticed that when we were talking about this, you started doing something with your hair.
Yes, nervous.
Nervousness?
Yeah,
Are you nervous now?
yeah, I don't like to talk about myself.
So, before we move on to summarizing, I want to talk about some goals. What do you hope to achieve by being in treatment or in therapy?
I would like to figure out how to get a hold or a handle on my anxiety. While it doesn't really interfere with like my day-to-day life, it is exhausting.
Have you ever tried to do this before?
Yeah, and they put me on medication.
Medications. Are you on medication currently?
No, I don't like medication. Because it makes me not feel anything.
Okay, so unfortunately we are getting short on time, so I would like to maybe summarize a little bit and then go back over what your goals are and maybe how we can help address this going forward. So you came to therapy with a untreated generalized anxiety disorder that doesn't involve necessarily any particular type of situation. When I asked you about it, you said life. So life happens to many people and they experience it in different ways. And for you, it's anxiety producing, correct? Okay. So we did identify that the type of work that you do now is provoking a lot of anxiety because it's different than what you've done in the past, which is before you could just close the door. And now you're compelled to be involved with people even when it's uncomfortable for you. And your goal is to get a hold of this somehow, maybe in such a way that doesn't involve medication, that allows you to fulfill your major role obligations, parenting, work, school, those types of activities with either diminished or limited anxiety effects. Am I correct? Okay. So what therapy will look like basically in general is you'll be telling me these types of situations. I'll maybe offer you some suggestions as to what I believe you're experiencing, and then I will elicit response from you and you'll tell me if I'm accurate or correct. Are you okay with that? Sometimes therapists will ask questions of clients and they'll attempt to label a particular feeling or emotion, and occasionally they're wrong. And I just wanted to know if you're okay with saying, if I'm off base, to say, no, Craig, that's not how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think what I'm going to have you do before our next session is I'm going to ask you to complete this on your own time before your next session, the Beck's Anxiety, Depression Inventory, and bring these back with you. And we'll begin next session with a brief overview of your scores is when you do that. Does that sound okay?
All right.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure meeting you
Nice
today.
to meet you too.
I'll see you next week.
All right.